Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And I offer a variety of services and classes, including one-on-one angel sessions, which take place over the phone, a longer form of support, soul mentoring, where you will have weekly sessions for 12 weeks or longer, and we'll use the time to help you move through a time of growth, transition, healing, awakening. Can be used in any way you are guided to use our time together. And then I am known for my classes. I offer a variety of classes, each one designed to inspire your spirit. And I typically offer a new class every 6 weeks or so. So I know some teachers offer a signature offering, so they're offering the same class fairly frequently. And many of the people who participate in my classes have been participating for years. So I'm always offering a little twist on things, something new. And also I do this for myself because I get to be both the facilitator, the channel, the teacher, and the student. Because these spiritual principles and invitations from the divine, it's not that we hear them and learn them once and we're done. They are learnings that we always have an opportunity to apply, to hold up to the light, to contemplate a bit differently. So I also get to receive in these classes, and my classes take place over Zoom. They're almost always smaller in size, so we get to know each other. And if you want to learn more about my offerings, I invite you to go to my website, illuminatingsouls.com, where you can sign up for my mailing list. I also post regularly on Facebook, so there's lots of ways that we can connect, but for now, the angels and I are here to create a sweet and sacred space for you to receive soothing, calming, loving energy, where we can keep you company as you drift off to sleep, or if you're listening during the day as you go about your day. However you choose to listen, it is our blessing and our joy to be here with you. If you are a regular listener, thank you so much. And as you may notice, I have been posting with less regularity over the past few months. I want to assure you I will keep creating new episodes for you, but I am doing it less frequently right now because I don't know, the energy is just not there for me. I don't mean the angelic energy. I mean my Laurel energy to get in front of the microphone and record the episodes. I love recording these for you and for myself too. I miss new content. So I will continue coming to the microphone and I will do my best to publish regularly. So it's not going anywhere. So don't get worried if you see less new content from me. It's just where I am right now in terms of my energy to do. I have energy to be. My energy to do is a little low right now, but all is good. We go through these times of incubation and hibernation, and I'll add one more, Asian and contemplation. Yes, we go through these times where I don't know, I always feel like I'm a little off planet. Like, I don't know that all of me is here right now. I think there is some sort of acclimation happening, all those Asians, yes. So if you're going through such a time, you're in good company. There are many of us going through this time of beingness, because perhaps our doing battery doesn't feel like it's on full right now. So I'm so proud of myself for even being here in front of the microphone right now. I'm so glad to be here. It is early-ish morning, so not as early as I would usually start, but it's still early morning, and it means that things are quiet. I will say I did try to record an episode on Sunday, so that was a few days ago, and usually Sundays are very quiet, but everything was noisy, and it was early. There were sirens around my neighborhood. My stomach kept growling, which you wouldn't think is an issue, but I have a very good microphone that picks up everything. So it felt hard, and I finally gave up about half an hour in. I still have what I recorded, and maybe I'll go back to that episode at some point. But I just sort of threw my hands in the air, and I thought, I don't know that it's meant to be. But this morning feels much more in alignment. It's very sweet. The sun is up. The trees are still. And I'm grateful to be here with you. So I invite you to take some nice deep breaths in and out, just allowing the love of the angels to flow to you now. And this is not a love you need to earn. It's not performance-based. It simply exists. It existed in the moment of your creation, and it has existed with you ever since, and it will exist for you when you depart this realm. It has been with you since before you incarnated, and it will stay with you in every expression of your beingness. This love is here for you always. It's just that we forget that it's there. This illusion of separation is only an illusion. I was sharing in one of my classes this week, it's like the phases of the moon. That when the moon becomes a crescent, we don't fear that the moon has gone away. We simply know that it is a game of shadows and light. And if we wait a few weeks, the moon will be full again. So the moon is always in its fullness. It's just that we cannot always perceive its fullness. Just as we are always whole, it is our essence to be whole and complete always. There are just parts of us that forget. And it's understandable because life here on planet Earth is messy and unpredictable and challenging, and each of us travels through shadow and light in our own ways. So in this moment, it is truly my blessing to bring you the light, that we can sit together under the fullness of the moon and remember its wholeness, just as it mirrors to us our own innate wholeness. That was one of my biggest learnings when I first started at the University of Santa Monica, where I studied for a master's degree in spiritual psychology. They start with the tenet that, in essence, you are whole and complete. You're a divine being having a human experience, and you are whole and complete. And I know for me, I don't know how much time I spent contemplating this, but if I had to describe it, I used to believe that I was a person. Well, I still believe I'm a person. It's not like I believe I'm a dinosaur now. So I still believe I'm a person, but I thought I was a person with a soul, but that my soul was out there somewhere. And that when I left this life, I would be reunited with my soul. Like my soul was this mystical presence that I would get to reunite with when I left this earth. Sorry, there's a plane flying overhead, but I'm going to keep going. It's not that disruptive. We live, I don't know, about 20 miles from Travis Air Force Base. So sometimes we have planes going overhead. Okay, so back to what I used to believe. So I used to believe that I'm a person and my soul's out there somewhere. And that when I would depart this life, you hear people talking about near-death experiences and they go through a tunnel and they feel all of the love. Well, I perceived that was the soul returning, like the soul's out there. And this concept that we are whole and complete, like our soul self has the capacity to be present now if we pivot our perspective. It's like the full moon. Full moon is there, whether we see it or not. The fullness of the moon is always present. So this idea that I was whole and complete, not from a place of ego, like I'm awesome and I'm whole, but from the place of my beingness and my consciousness is vast. And my innate wholeness exists. It exists. It is more than I am as Laurel, but it is not separate from all that I am as Laurel. Yes? So as Laurel right now, I'm having a very human experience, and so I go through all of the experiences you go through. Upset, fear, overwhelm, joy, like the whole rainbow of life. But now my foundation is built upon this understanding that I am whole and complete, as are you, as is every being on this planet. That we are whole and complete. And when we can lean into our wholeness, when we can connect with our divine self, when we can connect with the love of God, the divinity of God, knowing that this is not something we have to earn, knowing we are not being judged on how we live this life, that we are loved through everything. For me, it created a profound shift in my perspective. It allowed me to develop a deep sense of self-compassion for this experience I have as a human being. It's so interesting to me that it didn't foster egoism. Like, I'm awesome. But instead it fostered a deep connection to my own humanity and a deep sense of compassion for this lifetime and this experience. So I share with you that you are whole and complete, that you are beautiful and you are a miracle and you are a blessing here on earth. Because what is true of me is true of you. The breath of God that is all that I am, you are the breath of God that is all that you are as well. So let's take a breath on that. Take a breath of the breath of the breath of God. And release. And the angels are already here, but I will call them in so you know they are here as well. So beautiful angels on high, I ask that you join us here. I ask that you infuse this broadcast with waves of love and comfort, soothing energy that allows us to get a good rest, a restful rest, allowing this love and this comfort to flow to every cell in our body, every thought in our mind, and every emotion in our hearts. May we feel the expansiveness of love that is here for each one of us. And dear ones, just take another breath in, allowing yourself to just be. To just be in this moment with the light that is here for you. And the angels are asking if you are willing to give them your worries, your concerns, your prayers, your wishes, your desires. Let them know how they can support you. And just take a breath in and release. And the angels are sharing waves of gratitude for you. They are grateful for the gift of you. They are grateful for the light you embody. They are grateful for your beautiful heart. And this love they are streaming to you, they also stream to all that you love, all whom you love. So don't feel as if, oh no, I am just having this love for me. It has to go to others as well. Everyone and everything that resides in your heart is receiving this love right now as well. Just know that it is so. That simply by virtue of you carrying love in your heart, your love is being amplified and added to the love of the angels. And it is being rippled throughout the timeline of your life. It is being rippled into the past, into the present, and into the future timeline for you as well. This love is not bound by time or space. It can go everywhere at once, like a ripple in a pond. The concentric circles rippling out further and further as this love continues rippling throughout. Everything your consciousness has touched, is touching, or will touch. Isn't that beautiful? You don't even have to do anything. Just be. Just you be you. And if this is your bedtime, to cozy on up and snuggle on in. I have to say, when I crawled into bed last night, it felt so good. I was so tired yesterday, and when I finally allowed myself, because I really wanted to crawl in bed by about 5:30 at night, and I thought, no, that won't be good. I'll be up at midnight, so I didn't let myself crawl into bed until 8 p.m., so it was a matter of allowing, so oh, it felt so good when I finally got to crawl in bed. I love bed. Bed is awesome. So I hope you are having an awesome relationship with your bed as well. And it is a cozy space for you. And your angels are with you, creating a sweet and sacred space for you to drift off whenever sleep comes to you. And if you're going to be awake for a while longer, or it's your daytime and time of wakefulness, we'll mosey on into story time. And I'll be with you for a while longer. And I have a lovely story time for us in this episode that I am really looking forward to sharing with you. So, regular listeners, you will know my love of community cookbooks, especially Jewish community cookbooks, because I was raised Jewish. And this podcast has come with so many blessings I could not have anticipated, and one of them has been really falling in love with community cookbooks. So if you don't know what a community cookbook is, it is a book of recipes, typically put together by groups of women. So these days I don't even know, do people still buy cookbooks, because so many recipes are available online these days. So these days, I don't know about you, but I'm most likely to go into Google or something and find a recipe, and that would even be not really the truth, because that would infer that I actually cook or bake, and I really don't. But every once in a while I'm looking for a recipe, and I typically will go online. And then there's also beautiful cookbooks that are curated, where the recipes are tested and fit into a niche of some kind, whether it is a chef or a cuisine, and it typically has beautiful glossy paper with beautiful pictures, and the recipes have been tested, so hopefully if you try to recreate them following the instructions and the ingredients, your recipe will turn out as intended. But back in the day, the early 1900s till, 1980s, and they still happen these days, but perhaps with less frequency. Wherever you had groups of women, whether it was a PTA, a temple sisterhood, a church group, they would gather all of their favorite recipes. Sort of each woman would donate several recipes, and they would be compiled into a cookbook that would then be sold to raise funds for something. And that's what a community cookbook is. So back in the day, before the internet, and when mostly women were doing all of the cooking and had to cook 3 meals a day, they would put in a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they would learn their recipes from their mothers and their grandmothers and their neighbor Madge, who made the best casserole. And so I have this love for these community cookbooks because to me they represent so much love that it's a snapshot into the lives of the home. The women who were making the food, the families that were eating it, the kinds of foods that were available. And I love community cookbooks. I now have a really big collection of them. And one of the things, back to the gifts this podcast has given me, is I really started collecting them for the podcast so that I would have more material to share with you. And I also now have old TV guides that I collect for the same reason. But this is not a TV guide episode. This is a community cookbook episode. So this cookbook just came in the other day. I bought it off of eBay. It's called Council Cookery. It is favorite recipes of your favorite people. How lovely is that? From the Duluth section of the National Council of Jewish Women, published in August of 1948. So this is just towards the end of World War II. Women are definitely the ones in the kitchen at that point. Many of them had gone to work during the war, but they were still responsible for all of the cooking. And it starts with, "We wish to express our deepest appreciation to all those who contributed recipes from the Cookbook Committee: Mrs. S.S. Birdie, Mrs. S. Levinson, Mrs. E. Goldfine, and Mrs. Ben P. Mizell." And I always appreciate reading their names because I grew up in a temple community. We went to Temple Beth Israel growing up, and the women of the sisterhood were a huge part of my life. They were of loving service. They helped with, it's called an Oneg Shabbat. So an Oneg Shabbat is after the service. So at the Sabbath service, you go to temple and you go through the service, and then the community gathers for a nash. You say the Kiddush, you have a glass of wine. If you're a kid, you have a glass of grape juice. You have a little bit of challah, which is the egg bread that we make. And then there's always some sort of some sweet nibble, a cookie, a brownie, some sort of yummy thing. And so I always thought of that as my reward for going to temple. I got to be at the Oneg Shabbat. And so I have such a warm spot in my heart for the women who would show up when we were kids, whether they were the homeroom mothers at school who brought the cans of Hawaiian punch and the cupcakes. I don't know, I have such a sense of warmth in my heart for these women. So I'm just glad to read their names for you. And this was the part that really has me fascinated. This is the first page of the book. It says, after the title Council Cookery was selected, we discovered that in Chicago in 1898 there was published Inquire Within for Council Cookery by Knowing Cooks. And the interesting thing is council and cookery are spelled with a K instead of a C. By Knowing Cooks, spelled with a K. And I tried to find this book. Because now I know that it existed at some place, and I have looked all over and cannot find evidence of it anywhere. So this may be the only evidence that continues to exist for this Council Cookery for Knowing Cooks. So it says, from that book, we are happy to herewith print a recipe by Hannah G. Solomon, the founder of the National Council of Jewish Women. So the National Council of Jewish Women still exists, and I was able to find plenty of articles that speak about Hannah Solomon, and this is her birthday cake recipe, which is fascinating. So follow along with me and see if you can discern the flavor profile of this. We start with 15 eggs. Okay, that is a lot of eggs. 15 eggs. 1 pound of powdered sugar. 1 pound of grated chocolate. 1 pound of almonds grated. The grated rind of 1 lemon. Now here's where it gets interesting. 12 soda crackers, finely rolled. 1 teaspoonful of baking powder. 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. 1/2 teaspoonful of vanilla extract. A small quantity of finely cut citron. So you beat the yolks of the eggs and the sugar thoroughly. Add the chocolate and almonds, citron, cinnamon, lemon, and vanilla. Then the crackers to which the baking powder has been added. And lastly, the well-beaten egg whites of the eggs. This cake must be stirred 1 hour. 1 hour. Because in 1898 they did not have electric mixmasters. So I wonder if this is almost like a meringue cake of some kind, because although it has so many egg yolks, like that, it feels like the egg yolk part is so rich. And then you have 15 egg whites that are beaten. I can't even imagine the flavor profile of this cake. And then it says chocolate icing may be used. Also notice there's no instructions here about how long to cook the cake, bake the cake. You don't cook a cake. How long to bake the cake and at what temperature, because back in the day they assumed you would just know. In 1898, they did not have ovens with very sensitively tuned thermostats. It was a high oven, a low oven, a medium oven. It was assumed you brought a certain amount of knowledge to your experience of a recipe. Isn't that fascinating though? 15 eggs. That's a lot of eggs. On the bright side, this would be a high protein cake for sure. But I'm not invested enough to try and make it. But if anybody wants to make it and report back to me, I'm totally happy to hear from you. And I'll even send you a printout of the recipe. Then they have a little thing about the graces, the blessings that we say before and after meals, which I will spare you. It brings warmth to my heart. I don't mean I'll spare you like it's terrible. I just mean I don't know how interesting that would be. It's how we light the Sabbath candles, and we say the Kiddush over the wine and the hamotzi over the bread. Okay, and just a little aside about how I choose to go through these books with you. I know that some of you who listen are vegetarian or vegan, so I do my best not to include recipes that are meat-centric. It will include eggs, so I do include things clearly because we just talked about 15 eggs. So it's not necessarily vegan friendly, but I do my best to keep it vegetarian friendly. So if you're wondering why I never talk about meat recipes in here, that is why. They exist, but I choose not to include them out of respect for those of you that choose not to consume meat. So let's start with one that's really interesting that we would not make these days. Again, we have a different flavor profile that we live with these days and a different concept of foods. These are called mayonnaise puffs. So you take 1 cup of mayonnaise, 1 egg white beaten stiff, celery salt, paprika, and salted crackers. So you fold the mayonnaise into a beaten egg white, pile on crackers, sprinkle lightly with paprika and celery salt, put on a cookie sheet, and place under the broiler until a golden color and the mayonnaise is puffed, and serve at once. This is from Mrs. Ben Mizell. Then there are cheesettes, so cut white bread into dainty squares. I don't think we use the word dainty enough. I love that word. Roll in beaten egg, then grate cheese. Place on baking sheets and toast until golden brown. Again from Mrs. Ben Mizell. So I find these recipes fascinating. These are not things we would make these days, right? And cheese puff canapes. There is the obligatory recipe for pickled herring, which I will skip because my generation, we did not really grow up eating pickled herring. So there's a borscht recipe, sweet and sour cabbage. So again, these were things my parents would have loved. I was never much of a borscht fan, or sweet and sour cabbage soup was not my thing, but I remember these were things my parents would have eaten. One of the other things you'll notice is that seasoning is kind of kept to a minimum. So growing up, my mom would put salt in food. You know, you might saute some onions, but we didn't use a lot of spices. And for instance, the flavor profile, everything now is spicy. Everything now has heat. You know, jalapeno, ghost pepper, habanero. And I didn't grow up with any kind of spicy heat, so I'm not used to it at all. So in some ways, these foods, to somebody who grew up with a lot of spice and a lot of flavoring, might seem kind of dull, but to me, it's what I grew up with. So here's one called Harvest Chowder. You take 4 cups of shredded cabbage, 2 cups of sliced carrots, 3 cups of diced potatoes, 1 tablespoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of sugar, like that's barely any sugar, a half a teaspoon of pepper, 3 cups of water, 4 cups of scalded milk, and 2 tablespoons of butter. So again, you can see how there's really not a lot of, aside from the flavor you're getting from the vegetables, there's a little bit of pepper and a little bit of salt, and that's really it. So it's kind of, I think we would think of that as bland these days, but that's sort of the flavor profiles I grew up with. Okay, well here's one that would have delighted me as a child. Pineapple cream salad. So you take 1 package of lime jello, 1.5 cups of hot water, half a cup of crushed pineapple not drained. You can see where we're going here, right? 1 package of lemon jello, 1.5 cups of hot water, 1 package of cream cheese, and 1 cup of cream whipped. Like this is going to be a sweet, creamy, pineapple-y bite of deliciousness. So we're dissolving the lime jello in hot water, and then we cool it and fold in the pineapple. We chill so it's almost firm, so that the other jello will not run into it. Now, I don't know how many of you were of the generation of the layered jello salad. These were artistic masterpieces that required a lot of time because you had to put in the first layer of Jell-O, refrigerate, then the next layer of Jell-O. Like each layer required its own time. So we have our first layer, which is lime with pineapple. Next layer, dissolve the lemon Jell-O in hot water and cool, right? Because it needs to have its own space and time. Look at cosmic. And then blend the whipped cream and cheese. Fold into Jell-O, which has been allowed to thicken slightly. Mix well. Pour on top of the lime Jell-O and chill. Serve with berries in the center of a ring mold and top with whipped cream or a fruit dressing. And this is from Mary Cannon, president of the Eveleth, Minnesota section. So can you just imagine it? You're bringing it to the table. It's in a ring mold, which usually means there's an opening in the center, right? Like a bundt pan. And you've got the green with the pineapple, and then the lemon, which has the cream cheese and the whipped cream in it. And then you're putting some berries and whipped cream on top. It must have looked beautiful and tasted delicious. So ode to the Jell-O salads of times gone by. Okay, here's one called Cool Salad. 1 package of lemon Jell-O. So we're back to lemon Jell-O. 1/2 cup of diced cucumbers. 1/2 cup of shredded pineapple. 1 pimento shredded. And 1.5 cups of boiling water. You know, I don't know that I've ever seen a whole pimento. I only think of pimentos as being in like cheese or in the center of an olive. I don't know that I've ever had a relationship with I don't know that I've ever had an encounter. That sounded weird. I don't know that I've ever had an encounter with a whole pimento. So dissolve Jell-O in boiling water. Stir until dissolved, and when Jell-O starts to thicken, add cucumbers, pineapple, and pimento. Pour into wet molds. Chill. Serve on shredded lettuce with mayonnaise. Garnish with cucumber slices and peel on into the center of which is placed round of sliced stuffed olives. Well, there you go. So we are getting pimento in the olives. Okay, now, not related to this community cookbook, but let's talk cucumbers for a moment. Are any of you on TikTok? Do you watch TikTok? And if you watch TikTok, are any of you on Cucumber Talk? So there's this guy, Logan, who I have been following before Cucumber Talk because he would go to Korea and he loves Korea and Korean food, and I just followed him a couple of years ago. So he started this new series where he says, he takes out a big English cucumber and he says, sometimes you just need to eat a whole cucumber. And then he takes out his mandolin and he slices the cucumber into like a to-go container, you know, one of those tall to-go containers that you might get soup in. So he slices the whole cucumber into there. And then he starts adding stuff. He has different concoctions. So he puts in some rice wine vinegar, some soy sauce, a little sugar, or whatever he's putting in there. He grates in a clove of garlic. And then he puts in he goes, and now a little MSG, obviously. So he always says that. You put in a little MSG, obviously. And so he puts in all of his ingredients and he puts the lid on the to-go container and then he shakes it like a madman. And then he takes off the lid and he goes, and now we taste. And he just is euphoric when he eats this cucumber salad that he's just made. And it's so enticing that now so many people on TikTok are making their own cucumber salad, and they start with, sometimes you just have to eat a whole cucumber. And I will say that I have fallen prey to this TikTok cucumber salad thing, and I don't have to-go containers and I don't have a mandolin. I did make a cucumber salad concoction with some yum yum sauce from the Asian supermarket, and some tobiko, which is little fish eggs, a little bit of sugar, and a little soy sauce. And it was delish. He's also made one with peanut butter, like peanut butter and soy sauce, and oh, yum. What I have discovered is my body is not happy eating a whole cucumber. It's like, okay, you're not Logan, and this is not a good idea. It is fine to have a little cucumber, but there is no part of us that requires eating a full cucumber at a time. Otherwise, we might have something to say about it. So I do have a 3-pack of cucumbers sitting in my refrigerator. I will be making more cucumber salad, not with lemon jello though, or pimento. So if you're bored one day and get onto TikTok, look up cucumber talk and you will be delighted, because sometimes you just have to eat a whole cucumber unless you're me, and then that would be a really bad idea. But sometimes you just have to eat a quarter of a cucumber and maybe save some for the next day, which is really more my speed, because I do like cucumbers. Whole thing there. But let's keep going, because there's a beautiful community cookbook in front of us, and I have digressed. Okay, this is frozen fruit salad. Sounds great just by the title, right? So 1 cup of cream whipped, 1/2 cup of sugar, 1/2 cup of cooked salad dressing. So would that be mayonnaise, do you think? I mean, probably, right? 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, 3/4 cup of banana pulp. So I'm sure that you take a ripened banana, yes, and you smash it up like you're going to make banana bread. 1/2 cup of orange pulp cut fine. It's interesting they keep using the word pulp. 1/2 cup of strawberry or peach pulp, and 1/2 cup of cherries or grapes cut. So we're going to whip the cream and fold in sugar, salad dressing, lemon juice, and fruit pulp. Pour into wet refrigerator mold and freeze. Remove and cut into squares. Yeah, I don't know how good that sounds. I love a good smoothie with frozen fruit, but I might be a little disappointed in that if I were being served it and I was a kid. I don't know that it would have enough of the sugar delight for me. Okay, there is a recipe for Thousand Island dressing, and just so you know, I am a fan of Thousand Island dressing. I don't eat it very often because I forget it exists. And before the whole pandemic, when I would go to a restaurant and there would be Thousand Island dressing on a salad bar and I would get it, I would think, oh my God, this is so good. Why don't I have it more often? So, in case you want to make it at home, 1/2 pint of mayonnaise, 1/2 jar of sweet relish. You know, I would never put sweet relish on a sandwich, but it is a secret ingredient to many things that make them delicious, like Thousand Island dressing and tuna fish. Just as an aside, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3 hard-boiled eggs cut up fine, 1/2 bottle of French dressing. So we're going to seed our Thousand Island dressing with French dressing. 1 teaspoon of mustard and 1 dash of pepper. Mix and keep in refrigerator. And this is from Tessie Stein Oxman. Okay, well, that's an idea. Let's see what else we have. Okay, I just have to read this one because I love the name. Party corn pudding. Hi, what are you going to bring for dinner? I'm going to bring my famous party corn pudding. Yay. 2 cups of corn, 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3/4 cup of evaporated milk, 1/8 a teaspoon of pepper. I mean, to me, this is such a Jewish recipe, like not too much pepper, just like basically a sprinkle. That's all you're going to put in there. 2 tablespoons of melted butter and 2 tablespoons of sugar. We're going to beat the eggs lightly, mix all the ingredients together, pour into a greased pudding dish, What is a pudding dish? Is there a special dish for pudding I don't know about? I'm sure you can just use any dish. And bake until firm at 350 degrees. It serves 6. And to make this an unusual dish, add half a cup of chopped walnuts and 2 teaspoons of grated onion and bake in a greased ring mold. And this is from Mrs. H.W. Davis. Speaking of party corn, it was only in, I think, like 2008 that I was introduced to the wonders of elote, the way that Mexican corn is made, which is it gets grilled, and I guess it can also be boiled, and then it gets slathered with mayonnaise, butter, cotija cheese, chili powder, and lime. And I just had to edit it out, but when I finished the word lime, my stomach just growled because I have not yet had breakfast, and I suppose the idea of a delicious elote woke it up. The most delicious thing ever. I was at a friend's house for dinner and somebody brought it as their dish. And I just, how did I not know about this? And now I see it everywhere. And I don't know if that's just because I'm in Northern California or if now it is everywhere. But I did not have it until 2008 or so. And now at the farmer's market you can get it. And I love a good elote. And maybe it's called something else. I know elote is corn in Spanish, but when I say elote, I mean that whole thing with the butter and mayonnaise and cotija cheese and the lime and all the goodness. Every bite is a party in your mouth because it's awesome. Okay, let's see what else I can come up with. Okay, I know I said I wasn't really going to talk about things that had too much animal products in it, and I realize I've done that because I know Jell-O is not vegan friendly, even vegetarian friendly really, and mayonnaise is made with eggs and stuff, but I have to tell you this one, and it's because the reason I'm pausing is because it has schmaltz in it, which is chicken fat, which might sound super gross to you, but growing up in a Jewish household, whenever anything savory was really delicious, it is probably because it involved schmaltz. I still remember my grandmother died when I was 8 years old. I called her Nani. Stella was her name. I called her Nani. She was my grandmother. To this day, I remember the deliciousness of her hamburgers. And my cousin once said to me when I reminded him of her hamburgers, because he's like 10 years older than me, he said, "Oh, it's because she fried them in schmaltz." So she fried the onions in the schmaltz, and then she put the fried onions into the hamburger, and then she fried the hamburger with the onions in the schmaltz. I still remember how delicious that was. I would never make it that way today. I'm just saying. In my brain, I still remember it. Okay, so this is why I'm bringing this up. This is called potato balls for 12. Boil 6 potatoes in salted water and then mash thoroughly. Add 2 eggs and a little chicken fat, a little schmaltz, because that makes everything better. And season and beat well. And form into balls, roll in breadcrumbs, and then fry in deep fat and drain. Now, maybe she's frying it in Crisco, but I bet she's frying it in some schmaltz. And those are going to be some frickin' good potato balls if you're into that kind of thing. I'm never going to make them. I would never do that today. I'm just saying this is part of both flavors of my childhood. Okay, this one is also not vegetarian friendly, but there is a reason I'm going to share it with you because this is another flavor profile of my childhood, although not this recipe. So what I remember fondly is a tuna noodle casserole. I have no idea what my mom ever put in it, but again, enjoyed it as a kid, comfort food. So this is called noodle and tuna fish loaf. Okay, that part sounds gross. With potato chips. This is why I'm reading this to you, because it involves potato chips. So we're going to take 1 package of noodles, fine. I imagine these are egg noodles, cooked for 10 minutes. After straining and cooling, add 1 can of tuna fish and mix. Then add 1 layer of noodles and crushed potato chips alternately until the pan is filled. Add milk until 3/4 full. So you've got a layer of noodles, tuna, potato chips, noodles, tuna, potato chips, milk. Sounds disgusting right now, I know, but I'm just saying. A tuna noodle casserole with potato chips. Okay, I don't know. It sounds gross now that I've read it out loud. I'm just saying. They got, I had a whole vision of tuna noodle casserole with potato chips on the top, and that delighted me. Here's another one, another tuna noodle casserole. This one has cream of mushroom soup. Again, with potato chips. Listen, my mom never put potato chips on a tuna noodle casserole, and I am feeling like I have been deprived of an experience now. And that is because we never had potato chips in our house because my mom and I were always on a perpetual diet. So, alas, I never got to have it, but I will live. I'll be okay. I've had tuna, I've had noodles, I've had potato chips. I can imagine that in my mind. And also a shout out to the women who were making this for dinner because they were tired. They'd done the laundry, they'd kept track of the kids, and they had to make something for lunch or for dinner. So noodles, a can of tuna, some crushed up potato chips, and some milk. There you go. Eat. Go ahead and eat. Okay, so let's see what else I can come up. I haven't even, listen, I'm only on page 18. We will definitely come back to this cookbook. There are ads here also for stores. One is Gold Finds Trading Post, the only store of its kind in the Northwest. Everything for the home. 700 Garfield Avenue. The phone number is Melrose 3935. This is back in a day when there would be a word that would represent the first few letters that represented the first few numbers of a telephone number, so it would be easier for you to remember. So our home phone number started with Orchard 6. So OR6, 676, Orchard 6. And that naming convention went away early in my childhood. But I do remember we were Orchard 6. So Skokie was OR. Okay, I skipped over the meat stuff. But we do have New York blintzes. Oh, please tell me you've had a blintz in your life. Blintzes are delightful. And other cultures also have a form of a blintz. Yes, it's a crepe filled with sweet cheese deliciousness. So we're going to do 3 cups of flour, 2 tablespoons of sugar, optional. Okay, but we're going to have some sugar in it because I'm not really making these, so we'll pretend the sugar's in it. 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of shortening, 1/8 of a pound of butter. That's not much butter. 1/8 of a package of Philadelphia cream cheese and 1 egg. Okay, this is for the blintz part. Add sweet cream a little at a time to hold together. Knead well and form into 4 balls and put into refrigerator overnight. Cover with wax paper and remove dough 2 hours before rolling out. In the filling, we have 1.5 pounds of cottage cheese, 2 eggs, 2 tablespoons of sugar, optional, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So roll the dough the length of a cookie sheet and roll as thin as possible the width. Put cheese lengthwise and fold over the ends and roll up. Do not cut until ready to serve. And this is from Mrs. Eli Robbins, the president of the Austin, Minnesota chapter. And we're going to bake at 325 for 1 hour. I bet those are delicious. Okay, we have something here called cracker dessert. Again, this is right around the end of World War II. So rationing was a thing. There were some foods that weren't as easy to get. So this uses 12 soda crackers, 1 cup of nuts chopped, 3 eggs, 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1 cup of sugar. So we're going to beat the yolks for 5 minutes. Beat whites stiff and fold into yolks. Roll crackers, add baking powder, chopped nuts, and fold into yolks. Bake in a 9-inch pan which is buttered and floured in a 325-degree oven for about 30 minutes. Spoon out into sherbet cups and serve with whipped cream. And this is from Mrs. D.C. Frymuth. Ooh, how about some coffee ice cream? I love coffee ice cream. 1 cup of strong coffee. 22 marshmallows. Okay, child me would have loved this, although I don't know how into coffee I was, but the marshmallows, you got me. Combine and cook in top of double boiler until all is blended. Set aside to cool. 1 cup of cream whipped. Fold coffee mixture into whipped cream and beat until smooth. Pour into glasses or tray of refrigerator, and when ready to serve, top with whipping cream and maraschino cherry. This is H.Y. Joseph. And if you're a regular listener, you know my philosophy that wherever a maraschino cherry is involved, we're talking about delicious delightfulness. Here's another marshmallow recipe, peppermint cream. So 1/2 pound of peppermint candy. We're off to a really good start. 1/2 pint of coffee cream chilled. So not coffee, but the creamer you'd pour in coffee. 1/2 pound of marshmallows and 1/2 cup of hot water. So melt candy in hot water, cool, whip the cream, cut marshmallows into small pieces. Combine syrup, cream, and marshmallows. Pour into trays and freeze. Well, that sounds lovely. Also, are you a coffee drinker? I've recently got back into drinking coffee. I hadn't had caffeine in 25 years. And about a year ago, I kind of found my way back to coffee, and now I'm having 2 servings of coffee a day because it wakes my brain up. So I just bought a new kind of coffee yesterday that, again, I heard about on TikTok. I think TikTok's broken my brain because I watch, 1 to 3 minute videos at a time, and now I can't concentrate on an hour-long drama because I'm waiting for it to change. Anyways, enough about that part of it. But Bethany Frankel, who you might know from Real Housewives of New York, has a TikTok channel, which I had not been following, but it was showing up in my For You page. So your FYP For You page is your feed that TikTok gives you when the algorithm thinks it knows what you want to watch. So Bethany Frankel somehow started showing up on my FYP. And she has recently started using this new product, Nescafe iced coffee, instant iced coffee. Nescafe instant iced coffee. Comes in a blue jar. And you take a little bit of water and you put in a tablespoon, of this instant iced coffee granules, and you use your little frother, because now all of us need these little frothers that we did not know we needed. But of course I bought one off of Amazon for about $10. So I do have a little frother now. So you mix it up and then you put in some kind of creamer. She was using the Khalifa lavender creamer, which I would not use because I do not like things that taste like flowers. But that's just me. And it went viral. And so it was selling out everywhere. Well, I don't know about you, but once something's selling out, I have to have it. I need it. I will not rest until I have it. And yesterday, when I was grocery shopping, there was a whole shelf of them. So I bought one. I have not tried it yet. But this week, at some point, I will be trying the viral Nescafe instant iced coffee that Bethany Frankel loves, because apparently I have become that person who is so easily influenced by influencers on TikTok. not a moment I'm proud of. I have the frother. I now have the instant Nescafe iced coffee granules in my cupboard. So that's me, yeah. And I'm also loving Javi instant coffee concentrate. Also heavily influenced by my TikTok consumption. And you just put a little teaspoon of this little coffee concentrate into your hot water or cold beverage of choice. And it makes a delicious cup of coffee. So there you go. It's really probably not good that we're talking about coffee on a sleep podcast, but anyways, it's okay because we're not really consuming coffee right now. We're just talking. But we can go back to talking about potato chips on top of a casserole that I never got to have, or Jell-O layer salad, or a blintz. It's all good. It's all good. Life is good. And we are blessed to be together. So we'll come back to this cookbook at some point in time, perhaps, or maybe not. But I love paying homage to these women. These are the women who created the foundation of love upon which I was raised. So I just love visiting this time and space and food. So I love you very much, and we'll connect again soon. Thank you for allowing me the blessing of keeping you company. I wish you the sweetest of dreams. I wish you love and goodness and delight. Thank you.